But in this 8-page act, the founders are talking about the great rights, the grand rights of individuals. And they're talking about the first of those, what they call the grand rights, the right to government based upon the consent of the people. They said this. It's down in the right there, but if you go to the next slide, we'll get it in larger type. Hank, you want to advance it one? These words are in that act. If money is wanted by rulers who have in any manner oppressed the people, they may retain it, they may retain their money, until their grievances are redressed, and thus peaceably procure relief, without trusting to despised petitions or disturbing the public tranquility. And you find that in the this 8-page act, passed unanimously by the Continental Congress. You find it in Journal 1 of the Continental Congress on page 105. So what are they saying here? They're saying retaining your money. If you have grievances and you petition and the government is violating your rights, you have the right, the fundamental right to retain your money, thus peaceably procuring relief. It's a non-violent solution to problems that we have with our government. Without trusting to despised petitions. They knew, of course, from the Magna Carta on forward, they knew that the people had the right to petition, but they also knew government doesn't like opposition from any quarter. In fact, they despise these petitions when they get them from us. Right? So without trusting to the despised petitions, we can retain our money and procure relief without disturbing the public tranquility. Next slide. It's Jefferson, very good with words. He wasn't much of a public speaker, but he could really write. And this is the way he put it. Quote, the privilege of giving or withholding our money is an important barrier against the undue exertion of prerogative which, left altogether without constraint, may be exercised to our great oppression. And all history shows how efficacious its intercession for redress of grievances and establishment of rights, and how improvident would be the surrender of so powerful a mediator. How dangerous, how wrong it would be to give up this power that people have of giving and retaining their money in order to redress grievances and establish rights. Next. You'll find there's a lot of text, but what this says, in effect, is this. All these other rights that you find in the First Amendment are derivative rights. They all derive from the pre-existing essential right to hold the government accountable by petitioning for redress. As the historical record shows, and there's a footnote here and so on, as the record shows, Parliament, what good is the right to petition the king if Parliament couldn't get together and talk about it? I mean, the king had the right to dissolve Parliament and put another one in if he didn't like what they were doing. He did it often. So the right to free speech derived from the pre-existing right for redress if you couldn't write about it or get together and talk about it in Parliament or anywhere else. So these fundamental rights that we do know about, speech, press, and assembly, they're derivative rights. They derive from that fundamental right to be able to hold your government accountable. Think about it. The founders have given us this wonderful system of governance in the founding documents without giving us, the people, some means within the Constitution itself to hold the government accountable. Non-violently. Of course, there's the second thing. But would they have given us without those 10 words, that right to petition government for redress of grievances, was put in there as a critical element of the overall balance of power between the people and their government. Next slide. Also, it's clear from the historical record that Congress, government, anyone petitioned, whether it's the judiciary or the president or the Congress members, they are obligated to respond. And we clearly prove that with our historical documentation. It's all part of this PowerPoint presentation. brings us to the 1776 and the Declaration of Independence. Hank, if you could click on the PDF, it'll bring up the Declaration. We don't have a white screen here, which is a real disadvantage, but you see the PDF right there on the screen?
Yeah.
You want to scroll up? Just move it to the right a little bit and scroll up.
I can't move to the right.
You've been moving it to the left. You can move it to the right.
No, I'm not doing it.
All right.
Well, I can do it this way. I can do it this way.
All right, I'll paraphrase. So there they were, the founders. They went to Philadelphia to talk about their problems and what to do about them. They started in 1774. By 1776, they had come to the conclusion that they were going to have to separate. And the Declaration of Independence, what it says, in essence, is, look, we owe it to the world to explain why we're doing this. Right? A respect for the opinions of mankind leads us to want to explain why we're doing this. And so in the first large paragraph, you have some of the words you're all quite familiar with, of course. Go back just a little bit, have you had it there? Yeah, okay. So, we hold these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal. They're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. That's key, of course. Our rights don't come from government. Your rights are individual rights. You have them simply because you're alive. And where people become alive is debatable in our society, I understand. But we have them because you have life. And they don't come from government. They're unalienable. They're endowed by the Creator. They do not depend upon the will of any majority. Whether it's a majority of the people voting on election day, or whether it's a majority of the people voting in the halls of Congress, or whether it's a majority of the people voting on the bench at the Supreme Court. Your individual rights do not depend upon the will of any majority. Please understand. I'm sure most people do. But that's not what's happening in our country today. We're transitioning to a democracy, and oh gosh, let's not hold Mr. Obama to the Natural Born Citizen Clause. Let's not have him prove his eligibility under the Natural Born Citizen Clause of the Constitution, because to do so would be to overturn the will of all of the 65 million people that voted for him. It just drives me crazy. But anyway, all right, so is a life, liberty, property, pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is right of the people to alter or abolish it, institute, and so forth. Then we have, you want to scroll down? Now we have a listing of the grievances. If the Declaration of Independence is 5 pages, 3 of those pages are devoted to a listing of the grievances. Okay, we don't have to go through all of it, but just go down slowly, Hank, so people can get a feel for what those grievances are. And you really should go back today and spend a little time, just review that Declaration of Independence, because that's where we are. We've got to get together and discuss these issues and what we're going to do about it. Many of these grievances they had back then are being revisited. So, you'll see as you go through